I'm Ashley Mitchell, 32, and I built my tech empire from ashes of betrayal. 3 years ago, my sister Madison stole my business idea and convinced our parents to fund her startup while they called me jealous for objecting. Today, I run a thriving software company in Boston worth millions, while my phone buzzes with desperate texts from the family that once dismissed me. The latest: Madison begging for a job after her company's spectacular collapse. Funny how life comes full circle. Before I tell you how I went from betrayed sister to reluctant savior, make sure to subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. This story about family, business, and karma might teach you something about protecting your dreams. Growing up in Seattle's Ravenna neighborhood, our family dynamics were established early. I was always the responsible one, straight-A student, part-time jobs since 16. And first in our family to attend college. Madison, 2 years younger, was the charming one who could talk her way out of anything. She'd break curfew with a smile and come home to our parents' mild scolding, while I once lost computer privileges for a week when I returned 20 minutes late from the library. Our parents, Robert and Barbara Mitchell, never admitted their favoritism, but the evidence was everywhere. Madison's dance recitals warranted professional photography and dinner celebrations. My robotics competition wins earned a quick, "good job," and a pat on the back. When I pointed this out once during my senior year, my mother said I was too sensitive and that they were equally proud of both their girls. I learned to seek validation elsewhere. My father worked as a bank manager and my mother taught elementary school. We weren't poor, but money discussions always ended with "we can't afford that." Yet somehow, we could always afford Madison's cheerleading camps and new clothes for every school dance. I found refuge in technology early. While other kids played Nintendo, I wanted to know how the games worked. I saved allowance money for months to buy my first programming book when I was 12. By high school, I was building basic websites for local businesses. My parents viewed it as a quirky hobby, not a career path. "Computers are for men, Ashley," my mother said when I mentioned studying computer science. "Why not education like me? You'd make a wonderful teacher." I ignored her advice and earned a full scholarship to the University of Washington's computer science program. Those 4 years were transformative, finally surrounded by people who spoke my language and valued my skills. I graduated with honors, but the 2008 recession made finding jobs difficult. I survived on freelance coding gigs and a barista job until landing an entry-level position at Seattle Tech Solutions. The corporate world wasn't what I expected. For 3 years, I watched mediocre ideas get funded while innovative approaches gathered dust. My manager, Thomas, recognized my frustration during a performance review. "You've got too much entrepreneurial spirit to be happy here long-term, Ashley," he said. "But build your network and learn the industry before going solo." I've seen too many brilliant people fail because they didn't understand the business side. I took his advice seriously. During the day, I excelled at my assigned projects. At night, I studied business models and market trends. That's when I noticed a significant gap in the financial software market. Large corporations had sophisticated financial analysis tools, but nothing comparable existed for small businesses and individuals. The available options were either too complex and expensive or too simplistic to provide meaningful insights. I envisioned a platform that would democratize financial intelligence, something that could analyze spending patterns, suggest optimizations, and predict future needs using accessible language. For 6 months, I devoted every weekend to developing my algorithm. My boyfriend Ethan, a graphic designer I'd met at a tech mixer, supported my vision completely. He'd bring takeout to my apartment during coding marathons and listen patiently as I explained technical concepts. This could change how ordinary people interact with their money, I told him one night, surrounded by whiteboards covered in flowcharts. "Financial literacy shouldn't require an MBA. "I believe in you completely," Ethan said. "But are you going to tell your family about this one? They might actually be impressed." I hesitated. My pattern of keeping projects secret from my family began in childhood. I'd learned that sharing accomplishments either received underwhelming responses or somehow became about Madison. when I won the state science fair in 10th grade. My parents spent the celebration dinner discussing Madison's upcoming choir solo. Maybe when I have something concrete to show them, I replied, knowing I probably wouldn't. My business plan took shape methodically. Market research confirmed my instincts. There were 32 million small businesses in America alone, and most used outdated financial planning tools. I conducted anonymous surveys with local business owners, refining my concept based on their feedback. I created wireframes, user personas, and revenue projections. This wasn't just a good idea. It was a viable business. After months of night and weekend work, I had a functioning prototype. I called it FinForecast, a simple name for a sophisticated product. The early version could analyze a business's financial history and generate remarkably accurate predictions and recommendations. I tested it on fictitious companies and then on data from friends who owned small businesses. The results were promising enough to make me consider taking the leap into entrepreneurship. Thanksgiving that year became a turning point. Madison had recently moved back home after dropping out of her third attempt at college. Our parents never seemed concerned about her lack of direction, calling her a free spirit finding her path. During dinner, Dad asked about my job, his standard holiday question. Instead of my usual vague answer, something pushed me to share. Actually, I've been developing a financial software product that I think has real potential. I'm considering starting my own company next year. The table went silent. Then Madison leaned forward, suddenly interested in my life for the first time in years. That sounds fascinating, Ash. Tell us everything about it. Against my better judgment, fueled by wine and the rare attention, I explained my concept in detail, the market gap, my algorithm's capabilities, even my rollout strategy. Madison asked surprisingly informed questions about user acquisition and monetization models. Our parents looked bewildered but impressed. For once, I was the interesting daughter. I had no idea you were so business-minded, my mother said. Neither did I, Madison added with a smile that, in retrospect, should have warned me. That night, as Ethan and I drove home, he commented, "Your sister seemed really into your business idea." Madison gets intensely interested in whatever's new, I explained. Remember when I mentioned rock climbing once, and she became an expert mountaineer for about 3 months? This is just her latest fascination. She'll move on to something else soon. I couldn't have been more wrong. Madison's sudden interest in technology and finance should have been my first warning. She began texting me articles about financial technology startups, asking for my thoughts. She'd never shown interest in my field before, but I interpreted it as genuine sisterly connection, something I'd always wanted. "Have you thought about how you'll fund the initial development?" she asked during a coffee meetup in January. "I've saved enough to cover 6 months of full-time development," I answered. "Then I'll seek angel investment once I have a market-ready product." "Smart approach," she nodded, taking notes on her phone. Madison started visiting my apartment unexpectedly. I was in the neighborhood, was her usual excuse. She'd asked to use my bathroom, taking suspiciously long, or need to charge her phone in my home office where all my business materials were visible. Once, I returned from making coffee to find her scrolling through documents on my laptop. "Just checking my email," she claimed, quickly closing windows. I should have confronted her. But years of family dynamics made me doubt my suspicions. Was I being paranoid? Wasn't this the sisterly relationship I'd always wanted? Then came her suggestion that we collaborate on my business idea. We could be co-founders, Madison proposed during another surprise visit. Mitchell sisters taking the finance world by storm. "What would you contribute?" I asked, trying to sound curious rather than skeptical. "My people skills, networking, marketing, all the things you hate doing," she replied. "Plus, I could talk to Mom and Dad about investing. They've got that home equity line they never use." I declined politely, explaining I wanted to prove I could do this independently. Madison's expression hardened momentarily before she laughed it off. "Can't blame a girl for trying. You're probably right. Business and family don't mix well." I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 3 weeks later, I attended a local startup meetup at a downtown co-working space. I went regularly to network with potential developers and investors. That night featured 5-minute pitches from emerging entrepreneurs. I was chatting with a programmer I hoped to recruit when a familiar voice came through the speakers. My name is Madison Mitchell, and I'm about to revolutionize financial planning for small businesses. I froze, then turned slowly toward the stage. There stood my sister, presenting my business concept slide by slide. She'd renamed it Finance Future, but everything else was identical. The market analysis, the functionality, even my example use cases. She'd clearly memorized my explanations, using my exact phrasing about democratizing financial intelligence. Blood pounded in my ears as she finished to enthusiastic applause. When she stepped off the stage, I confronted her immediately, pulling her into a quiet corner. That's my business plan. My concept. My work. How could you do this? Madison didn't even flinch. Ideas are worthless without execution, Ash. You've been developing this for what, a year now? I'm actually making it happen. By stealing my work? My research? My algorithm? She rolled her eyes. You can't copyright an idea. Besides, my approach is different. I'm focusing on user experience and quick scaling, not getting lost in technical perfectionism like you always do. Different? You use my exact words. Look, she lowered her voice, there's room for both of us in this market. May the best Mitchell win. She walked away to network with potential investors, several of whom I recognized from my own target list. I later learned she'd been meeting with them for weeks, using my business plan, my market research, and my prototype concepts. She'd even hired a developer to recreate my algorithm based on notes she'd taken while snooping through my computer. I drove straight to our parents' house, calling an emergency family meeting. With shaking hands, I presented the evidence, my dated documents and code repositories alongside Madison's pitch deck. The similarities were undeniable. This is my intellectual property, I explained. I've been developing this concept for almost a year. Madison saw my work and duplicated it. My father frowned. Are you sure you're not overreacting? Great minds think alike. Especially when they share DNA. Dad, she used my exact market analysis figures. Those aren't public information. I compiled them myself. Madison shrugged. I did my own research that reached similar conclusions. And, honestly, I improved your concept. Your user interface was clunky, and your market approach was too cautious. How would you know what my interface looked like unless you went through my computer? I demanded. You showed me at Thanksgiving, she lied smoothly. No, I described the concept. I never showed anyone except Ethan the actual designs. My mother interjected. Girls, surely there's a compromise here. Ashley, your sister is clearly passionate about this idea too. Passionate? She never mentioned finance technology in her life until I talked about my business. Then came the devastating revelation. My father cleared his throat uncomfortably. We've already committed to supporting Madison's venture. We believe in her vision. What do you mean committed? I asked, though I already knew. We've invested in her company. My mother explained gently. We took out $150,000 against the house to fund her startup costs. The room spun. They had never offered to help fund my education, let alone my business. You gave her money to steal my idea. Now that's enough, my father snapped. This jealousy is beneath you, Ashley. Your sister has shown initiative and presented a clear business plan. She's assembled a team and secured additional investors. What have you done besides talk about possibilities? I've been methodically developing a viable product rather than rushing to market with a half-baked concept and a slick pitch. I shot back. See? This is why we went with Madison. My mother sighed. She has a positive attitude and embraces collaboration. You've always been competitive with your sister. Collaborative? I laughed bitterly. She stole my work. Madison looked at me with practiced sympathy. I think you're upset because deep down, you know you would have never taken the leap. You're too cautious, too afraid of failure. I'm actually doing this. You should be supportive instead of trying to hold me back. My father nodded. Your sister is right. Family supports each other. I looked at them. My sister's calculated sympathy, my father's dismissal, my mother's disappointment, and something broke inside me. Years of being the responsible, overlooked daughter crystallized in that moment. Support goes both ways, I said quietly, gathering my things. Good luck with your investment. You'll need it. I walked out of my childhood home with tears streaming down my face, knowing something fundamental had changed. The family I thought I had, imperfect but ultimately loving, was a fiction. The reality was much colder. I spent the next week in a fog of betrayal and self-doubt. I called in sick to work, ignored emails, and barely ate. Ethan found me on day 3. Unwashed and surrounded by empty ice cream containers, watching reality television with vacant eyes. "This isn't you," he said, opening curtains to let in light that hurt my eyes. "You've never been one to wallow." "I'm not wallowing," I argued weakly. "I'm processing the fact that my family would rather support a stolen idea than acknowledge my work." Ethan sat beside me. "Then they've made a terrible business decision, because you're the one with the skills to make this succeed." His faith stirred something in me, but doubt crept back in. Maybe Madison's right. Maybe I would have just kept perfecting and never launched. Maybe I don't have what it takes. "That's their voice in your head, not yours," Ethan said firmly. "The Ashley I know built a functioning algorithm that financial analysts with 20 years experience couldn't create. The real question is, are you going to let them win?" His challenge struck a nerve. I'd spent my life seeking validation from people who were constitutionally incapable of providing it. Meanwhile, I'd overlooked those who actually believed in me. Ethan, my college mentors, even my boss Thomas, who recognized my entrepreneurial spirit. The next day, I found a therapist specializing in family dynamics. Dr. Kimberly Reynolds didn't offer platitudes or immediate solutions. Instead, she helped me understand the family patterns that led to this moment. "What you're describing sounds like a lifetime of differential treatment," she explained during our second session. "Your role as the responsible, self-sufficient child allowed your parents to focus their nurturing energy on your sister. It worked for them, so they never questioned it. But they're my parents," I said, voice breaking. "They're supposed to believe in me too." Many parents unconsciously assign roles to their children that serve the family system, not the individual child, she replied. "Breaking out of your assigned role threatens that system." Over several sessions, I began to see how I'd internalized my family's narrative, that my achievements were expected rather than exceptional, that my drive was a character flaw rather than a strength, that Madison's needs would always take precedence. "The hardest part of family betrayal," Dr. Reynolds told me, "is accepting that the relationship you thought you had doesn't exist. Only then can you decide what kind of relationship you want moving forward, if any." After careful consideration, I decided to cut contact with my family. I blocked their numbers, muted their social media, and instructed mutual friends not to relay messages. The silence was both painful and liberating. Meanwhile, Madison's company announcements arrived via industry newsletters and LinkedIn updates. Each one felt like salt in an open wound, but also fueled my determination. I would not let her theft define my future. I channeled my anger into action. First, I took a hard look at my original concept. If I moved forward, I needed something differentiated enough to avoid both market confusion and potential legal challenges from Madison's now-funded company. I completely redesigned my approach. While Madison's version followed a traditional SaaS model targeting small businesses, I pivoted to a more innovative consumer-first approach. My new concept would offer financial intelligence tools directly to individuals, then provide a seamless upgrade path for their business needs. This grow with the user strategy would create a more loyal customer base and unique market position. I reached out to Catherine Williams, a former colleague who had mentored me at Seattle Tech before leaving for a venture capital firm. Over coffee, I explained my situation without bitterness, focusing on my new business direction. "I remember you talking about this concept last year," Catherine said. "I thought it had potential then. This refined approach is even stronger. Would your firm be interested in investing?" I asked directly. Catherine winced. "Unfortunately, we've already passed on your sister's company. Investing in what could be perceived as a competing product would create conflicts. But," she added, seeing my face fall, "I can introduce you to several angels who might be interested." Her connections proved valuable, but investors moved cautiously. Several admitted they'd already seen a similar concept pitched by Madison. The shadow of her company followed me everywhere. To fund development, I took on freelance coding projects nights and weekends while maintaining my day job. I lived on ramen and coffee, sleeping just enough to remain functional. My apartment became a command center of whiteboards and sticky notes. Ethan worried about my health but supported my drive, bringing proper meals and forcing occasional breaks. During this time, I met Lauren Rivera, a UX designer who had briefly worked with Madison's company before quitting. She approached me after a local tech meetup. "Your sister took credit for my design work and refused to pay my final invoice," she explained bluntly. When I heard about another Mitchell working on financial software, I wanted to see if being terrible runs in the family. Her honesty made me laugh for the first time in weeks. "And what's your verdict?" "Still determining," she said with a small smile. "But I like what I've heard about your approach so far." Lauren became not just my UX designer, but a genuine friend and business ally. She understood the personal stakes involved and brought both skill and loyalty to the project. Together with 2 junior developers I hired on modest contracts, we formed the core team of what I now called ClearFinance, deliberately distinct from both my original name and Madison's version. Technical challenges emerged that tested our small team's capabilities. The algorithm needed significant refinement to support individual users rather than just businesses. Security requirements for personal financial data were more stringent. Our limited budget meant creative problem-solving rather than throwing money at issues. After 4 months of development, we had a working prototype superior to my original concept. The interface was intuitive, the insights actionable, and the security robust. We began private beta testing with 50 users, iterating based on their feedback. Then came our first significant break. Michael Donovan, an angel investor Catherine had introduced me to, used our beta version for a month and was impressed enough to offer $250,000 in seed funding. "I've seen a dozen financial apps this year," he told me. "Yours is the only one that actually made me understand my spending patterns and change my behavior." That's the difference between a tool and a solution. His investment allowed me to quit my day job and focus entirely on ClearFinance. We secured modest office space in a tech incubator and hired 3 more developers. For the first time, my vision felt tangibly real rather than just a response to betrayal. Yet obstacles remained. Several potential partners backed away after learning about the situation with Madison's company. Industry events became awkward when we both attended. The emotional toll of constantly explaining the circumstances without sounding bitter or unprofessional exhausted me. "It's like swimming upstream," I confessed to Dr. Reynolds during a therapy session. "I'm not just building a company, I'm constantly defending my right to build it." "That's the additional burden placed on you," she acknowledged. "But consider this. Every challenge you overcome makes your eventual success more meaningful and more yours." I held on to that thought during the hardest days, reminding myself that my journey, though more difficult, was building something authentic and earned. No one could take that away from me. Madison's company launch party made the local business news. The event featured champagne fountains, celebrity endorsements, and promises of revolutionary financial technology for the modern entrepreneur. Pictures showed my sister in a designer dress, champagne flute raised, surrounded by admiring investors. Our parents stood proudly nearby, looking more dressed up than I'd ever seen them. The article described Madison as a visionary tech founder who identified a critical market gap and quoted her saying she'd always been passionate about democratizing financial intelligence. The exact phrase I'd coined during years of development. I threw my phone across the room after reading it. Lauren picked it up, screen now cracked. "Consider this your official transition to startup founder," she said, handing it back. The cracked screen phone is practically a uniform requirement. Her humor helped. But the sting remained. Madison's company, Finance Future, secured a $2 million investment round within months of launching. Industry publications featured her as a young innovator reshaping financial technology. Our parents' social media overflowed with proud posts about their entrepreneur daughter and her meteoric rise. Meanwhile, ClearFinance grew steadily but without fanfare. We focused on product quality and user satisfaction rather than publicity. Our team expanded to 12 people, each carefully selected for both skill and cultural fit. We maintained a lean operation with modest salaries and equity incentives. Thomas, my former manager who had become a mentor, provided crucial advice during this period. Madison's building a company for investors, he observed after reviewing both our product and hers. You're building one for customers. That difference will matter in the long run. His insight proved accurate. While Madison's company focused on rapid expansion and flashy features, we prioritized stability and genuine utility. Our user base grew through word-of-mouth referrals from satisfied customers. Madison spent millions on marketing. We invested in customer support and product improvements. The technical differences between our products became increasingly apparent. Finance Future offered attractive visualizations but struggled with accuracy and depth. ClearFinance provided more sophisticated analysis and actionable recommendations. Industry reviewers noted the distinction, with one influential blog calling Madison's product style over substance, while describing ours as the financial advisor you've always wanted but couldn't afford. 6 months after launching, I made a significant decision, moving our operations from Seattle to Boston. The distance from Seattle's painful associations and my family's direct sphere of influence offered psychological freedom. The Boston tech scene provided fresh networking opportunities and talent pools. Most importantly, it established ClearFinance as distinctly separate from Finance Future in both geography and identity. The move meant saying goodbye to Ethan temporarily. His design agency had major projects in Seattle that he couldn't abandon. We committed to a bi-coastal relationship with monthly visits until he could relocate. His unwavering support throughout my darkest period had deepened our relationship, and we both believed it could withstand the distance. "I'm so proud of you," he told me at the airport. "Not just for building the company, but for rebuilding yourself in the process." Boston brought new energy to our team and product. We secured office space in a renovated industrial building in Cambridge, its brick walls and wooden beams providing character without extravagance. Our furniture came from second-hand office supply stores, and our conference table was a door laid across 2 filing cabinets. Startup minimalism born of necessity, but embraced as philosophy. This contrasted sharply with Madison's approach. Through industry contacts, I learned her company had leased premium offices in downtown Seattle with panoramic views, custom furniture, and a fully stocked bar. They hosted lavish client events and offered above-market salaries to poach talent from established firms. Their burn rate must be astronomical, Lauren commented when we discussed it. That $2 million won't last long at that pace. She's always believed appearance equals success, I replied. Style over substance, just like the review said. Our different philosophies extended beyond office space. Madison focused on aggressive user acquisition, offering free premium subscriptions to inflate numbers for investors. We charged fair prices from the beginning, believing users who paid valued the product more and provided better feedback. Madison's team grew rapidly to over 50 employees, many in marketing and sales rather than product development. Our team remained lean at 15, with most resources dedicated to engineering and customer support. When we did hire, we sought passion and fit over impressive resumes. The industry noticed these contrasting approaches. A TechCrunch article highlighted the Mitchell sisters' divergent paths without taking sides. The writer noted, while Madison Mitchell's Finance Future follows the familiar hypergrowth playbook, Ashley Mitchell's ClearFinance represents a return to fundamentals, prioritizing product excellence and sustainable economics over vanity metrics. My phone rang the day that article published, the first call from my mother in nearly a year. I let it go to voicemail, then listened with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Ashley, honey, I saw the article about you and your sister. Dad and I are so proud that both our girls are making names for themselves in business. Perhaps we could all have dinner next time you're in Seattle? Call me back when you can. I didn't return the call. Their sudden interest felt opportunistic rather than genuine, reaching out only when my success became public rather than when I was struggling. Dr. Reynolds helped me recognize this as consistent with their established pattern. Attention followed external validation, not personal need. As our first year in business concluded, ClearFinance reached profitability, a rare achievement for an early-stage startup. We celebrated with a team dinner where I distributed the first profit-sharing checks. They weren't large, but they represented something significant. We were building something sustainable. That same week, industry rumors circulated about finance futures' sustainability issues. Anonymous posts on tech forums mentioned missed deadlines, technical debt, and declining investor confidence. I took no pleasure in these reports, knowing how many innocent employees would be affected if Madison's company faltered. Then my phone displayed a name I hadn't seen in months, Madison calling. I didn't answer, but her voicemail revealed unexpected vulnerability. Ash, it's me. I know you probably hate me, and you have every right to, but I could really use some advice about system architecture scaling. We're having some issues that I think you'd know how to solve. Call me if you can. I deleted the message without responding. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd stolen my idea but couldn't execute it properly without my expertise. Part of me wanted to help the employees who would suffer from technical failures, but a stronger part recognized this as another instance of Madison attempting to use me without acknowledgement or restitution. Instead, I channeled my energy into our next product release, which would introduce advanced features for small business owners, bringing ClearFinance full circle to my original vision, but with a stronger foundation and clearer identity. As Madison's company began showing cracks, ours continued strengthening. Our user base passed 50,000, with customer satisfaction metrics that led the industry. Boston's tech community embraced us, with local business publications featuring our sustainable growth model as an alternative to the growth at all costs mentality. Through it all, I maintained my distance from family drama, focusing instead on building something meaningful. The pain of betrayal gradually transformed into appreciation for the unexpected path it had forced me to take, one that led to a better product and a stronger sense of self. The first public signs of trouble at Finance Future appeared approximately 18 months after their launch. A prominent industry blog reported they had missed their third consecutive product update deadline, with promised features repeatedly pushed back. Their official explanation cited perfectionism and expanded scope, but insiders suggested deeper problems. Former employees began updating their LinkedIn profiles, signaling departures. Glassdoor reviews painted a concerning picture: chaotic management, constantly changing priorities, and technical debt mountainous and growing. Most tellingly, multiple reviews mentioned features promised to clients that engineers know are impossible to deliver with current architecture. Madison's calls to me increased. I continued ignoring them until one night when she left a message that sounded genuinely desperate. Ashley, please. I know I have no right to ask, but our core prediction algorithm is failing as we scale. The accuracy rates have dropped below acceptable levels, and our technical team can't fix it. This isn't about me anymore. There are 50 people whose jobs depend on solving this. Just one conversation, please. I discussed the situation with Lauren and our lead developer, Raphael. What's my obligation here? These aren't my employees to worry about. Technically, none, Raphael replied. But I'd hate to see 50 tech workers lose their jobs because of leadership mistakes. Lauren was less sympathetic. She stole your algorithm without understanding how it works. Classic Madison from what you've told me. Actions have consequences. After careful consideration, I texted Madison, I can't fix your technical problems. You should have thought about architecture limitations before taking my prototype concept. Hire better engineers or scale back your promises. Her reply came instantly, I deserve that. But please, Ash, we've got people with families' mortgages. Dad and Mom remortgaged their house for the second round of funding. Everyone's at risk here. This new information stunned me. Our parents had invested even more? I called Ethan to process this development. They remortgaged their retirement home for Madison's company? After everything that happened. Are you surprised? Ethan asked gently. They've always backed her plays. But this is their retirement security, not just emotional support. Maybe they're finally learning that actions have consequences too, he suggested. You don't owe them a bailout. I agreed intellectually but felt the emotional pull of family obligation nonetheless. Before I could decide how to respond, industry news overshadowed personal considerations. A major economic publication ran an analysis of the financial technology sector, highlighting concerning patterns at several companies, Finance Future prominently among them. The article noted their customer acquisition costs had ballooned to unsustainable levels while user retention plummeted. Most damaging was the revelation that their core technology underperformed compared to competitors, specifically mentioning ClearFinance as the industry accuracy leader. Within days, Madison's company announced a 40% workforce reduction. Their press release called it strategic restructuring, but the industry recognized a desperate cost-cutting measure. Their glossy downtown offices were listed for sublease, and Madison's luxury apartment appeared on real estate websites. Our parents finally called me directly rather than leaving messages. I answered, maintaining emotional distance, but curious about their perspective. Ashley, honey, how are you? My mother began, as though we'd spoken recently. I'm fine, Mom. ClearFinance is doing well. What's going on? We've been reading about your success, my father interjected. The industry really seems to respect your approach. The conversation continued awkwardly, neither of them mentioning Madison's struggles until I directly asked, how are things with Madison's company? I've read about the layoffs. A heavy silence followed. Then my father cleared his throat. It's been challenging. Some unexpected technical issues and market conditions. Unexpected? I warned you her approach wasn't sustainable. Yes, well, hindsight is 20/20, he replied defensively. Madison is working very hard to turn things around. My mother added. We're so grateful she has such supportive parents. Not everyone would stand by their child through business difficulties. The implication stung. I hadn't received their support when I needed it most. You mean not everyone would remortgage their retirement home for a business they didn't understand? Another uncomfortable silence. Who told you about that? My father finally asked. Madison did. How much did you invest in the second round? Another 100,000. He admitted reluctantly. We believed in her vision. And now? Now we're concerned about the mortgage payments. If Madison's company doesn't recover soon. I ended the call shortly after, promising to think about their situation. The conversation left me feeling manipulated. They hadn't called to reconnect, but to prepare groundwork for financial assistance. They still hadn't acknowledged the original betrayal or their role in it. Events accelerated rapidly after that call. An industry newsletter reported that Finance Future's primary venture capital backers had pulled out of their committed follow-on funding round, citing material breaches of development milestones. Without this expected capital infusion, Madison's company faced imminent cash flow crisis. Then came the breaking news that shook the regional tech scene. Finance Future filing for bankruptcy protection. The business section headline read, Finance Future collapses amid technical failures and financial mismanagement. The article detailed how the company had burned through $3.5 million in investor funding while delivering an increasingly unstable product. More damaging revelations followed. Madison's business partner and boyfriend Jason had apparently transferred significant company funds to personal accounts before leaving the country. The bankruptcy filing revealed outstanding debts to vendors, employees, and landlords totaling over $800,000. Former employees shared stories of chaotic management and lavish spending even as the company floundered. My phone lit up with messages from industry contacts expressing sympathy and, in some cases, schadenfreude. I responded graciously but briefly, uncomfortable with celebrating anyone's failure, even Madison's. The employees losing jobs and investors losing money deserved better leadership than they'd received. That night, Madison's tearful voicemail marked rock bottom for her. I've lost everything, Ash. The company, Jason, my apartment, my reputation. Mom and Dad might lose their house because they believed in me. I know I don't deserve your help after what I did. But I didn't understand what I was doing. I was in way over my head from the beginning. I thought business was about confidence and appearances, not actually understanding the technology. You were always the smart one. I just wanted to be important too. I'm so sorry. For everything. I played the message for Dr. Reynolds during our next session, seeking perspective on these rapidly changing dynamics. What are you feeling right now? She asked after listening. Conflicted, I admitted. Part of me feels vindicated. The truth about her capabilities and character has finally come to light. Another part feels sorry for her and everyone affected. And honestly, there's anger that she's attempting to make this my problem to solve now that her actions have caught up with her. All valid feelings, Dr. Reynolds acknowledged. The question is, what boundaries serve you best moving forward? That question would guide my decisions in the coming weeks as I navigated the aftermath of Madison's failure and my family's expectations. For the first time, I held the power in our dynamic, a responsibility I approached with careful thought rather than reactive emotion. While Madison's company collapsed spectacularly, ClearFinance continued its steady growth trajectory. Our disciplined approach and technical excellence attracted attention from major financial institutions seeking partnerships. 6 months after Finance Future's bankruptcy, we signed a contract with National Financial Services to provide our analytics engine for their small business banking clients, a 7-figure deal that validated our business model. Industry recognition followed. Financial Technology Monthly named our platform Most Innovative Personal Finance Solution, and the prestigious Banking Technology Awards shortlisted us for Best Customer Experience. Our user base surpassed 250,000, with customer retention rates that led the industry. We expanded to 50 employees and moved to larger offices in Cambridge's Innovation District, still modest by industry standards, but comfortably appointed with standing desks, quality equipment, and design elements that reflected our brand values of clarity and accessibility. Unlike Madison's approach, our growth remained self-funded through revenue rather than external investment, giving us complete control over our destiny. Ethan finally relocated to Boston, taking a creative director position with a design agency that offered remote work flexibility. After 2 years of proving our relationship could withstand distance and stress, he proposed during a weekend hiking trip in the White Mountains. The personal joy of our engagement complemented my professional success, creating a sense of wholeness I'd never experienced. Business Weekly featured me in their Resilient Entrepreneurs series, telling the sanitized version of my journey from concept to successful company. The article mentioned Madison's competing venture only briefly, describing it as a similar concept that failed to achieve technical stability. I had specifically requested they minimize that aspect of the story, seeing no benefit in publicly highlighting family drama. Throughout this period, communication with my family remained minimal. Occasional text exchanges with my mother provided basic updates without emotional depth. Madison attempted contact every few weeks, first with apologies, then with tentative friendship overtures, and finally with increasingly direct requests for employment consideration. I responded politely but maintained firm boundaries. Our parents' financial situation, however, became increasingly dire according to the bits of information that reached me. The second mortgage they'd taken from Madison's company stretched their retirement income beyond sustainable limits. Madison had moved back into their home after losing her apartment, adding further strain to their resources. Then came the late-night call from my mother that would force a decision I'd been avoiding. "Ashley, I wouldn't ask if we had any other options," she began, her voice uncharacteristically small. "Your father's had some health issues, stress-related high blood pressure that's concerning his doctor. We're 2 months behind on the mortgage payments, and the bank is starting foreclosure proceedings. We have 60 days to get current or lose the home." I sat in silence, processing this information. My mother continued filling the void with words. "Madison's looking for work, but her reputation in the tech industry is complicated now. She's working part-time at a coffee shop, but it barely covers groceries. Your father's retirement income isn't enough with the second mortgage payments. We've listed the house, but the market's down, and we owe more than it's likely to sell for. What exactly are you asking me for, Mom? I finally responded. Her hesitation spoke volumes. We need about $40,000 to stop the foreclosure and give us time to sell the house. We could pay you back once it sells, even if we take a loss. This is the same house you remortgaged to fund Madison's company after she stole my business concept. Another long pause. We made a mistake, Ashley. We should have believed in you from the beginning. The acknowledgement, though years late and clearly motivated by desperation, still affected me. This was the closest they'd come to admitting their role in the betrayal. I need to think about this, I told her. I'll call you back in a few days. I discussed the situation with Ethan that night, lying awake long after he'd fallen asleep. The following morning, I sought perspectives from those I trusted. They're adults who made poor decisions, Lauren argued during our coffee break. Natural consequences exist for a reason. Raphael offered a different view. Family is complicated. You don't help them for who they were, you help them for who you are. I arranged an emergency session with Dr. Reynolds, who listened thoughtfully before asking, what outcome would allow you to look in the mirror without regret? Not what they deserve, what you need. After days of deliberation, I developed a plan that maintained my boundaries while acknowledging the complicated reality of family ties. I wasn't willing to simply write a check that enabled further dependency. But I also couldn't ignore their genuine crisis. I called a meeting at a neutral location, a private room at a restaurant midway between Boston and Seattle. I flew in specifically for this discussion, making it clear this was a significant but limited engagement. My parents arrived first, looking older and more subdued than I remembered. Madison came separately, her designer clothes replaced by simpler attire, her confidence dimmed but not extinguished. Thank you for coming, I began formally. I've given your situation considerable thought and have developed a proposed solution. Before I share it, I want to be clear. This is not about the past. I'm not looking for apologies or explanations. This is a business discussion about moving forward. My father nodded stiffly. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Madison stared at her hands. I'm not giving you money directly, I continued. Instead, I'm offering a structured arrangement that provides solutions rather than bandages. I outlined my three-part proposal. First, for Madison, I can offer you an entry-level position at ClearFinance as a customer support specialist. Standard salary, no special treatment. You'll report to our support manager like any other employee, with the same performance expectations and advancement opportunities. Your technical familiarity would be useful, but you'd need to rebuild trust with every team member. Second, for my parents, I'll arrange refinancing for your home through business contacts at better terms than you could secure currently. You'll still be responsible for the payments, but they'll be manageable on your retirement income if you're careful. I'll cover the fees and immediate payment needed to stop foreclosure as an advance against the new mortgage. Third, for all of us, weekly family therapy sessions for 6 months, which I'll pay for, but we all must attend without exception. We have patterns that need addressing if any relationship is to be salvaged. The silence following my proposal stretched uncomfortably. Madison broke it first. Customer support? With my experience. Your experience includes a bankrupted company and alleged financial improprieties, I replied evenly. This is an opportunity most in your position wouldn't receive. Take it or leave it. My father cleared his throat. The refinancing, that's very generous, Ashley. But the therapy requirement seems excessive. We can sort out our family matters privately. We've had 30 years to sort them out privately, I countered. The results speak for themselves. The therapy is non-negotiable. I think it's fair, my mother said quietly. More than fair, considering everything. After further discussion and initial resistance, all three accepted my terms. The arrangement wasn't about punishment, but boundaries, offering genuine help while requiring accountability. I wasn't rescuing them. I was providing tools they could use to rescue themselves. As we prepared to leave, Madison asked the question that had likely been on all their minds. Why are you helping us at all? You could have just let us deal with the consequences. I considered this carefully before answering. Because the person I want to be isn't defined by how others have treated me, but by how I choose to treat others, even those who've hurt me. That doesn't mean forgetting or enabling. It means making choices I can live with. The road ahead would be challenging for all of us, but for the first time, it would be built on reality rather than illusions. Whether that foundation could support a rebuilt relationship remained to be seen. Madison's first day at ClearFinance set the tone for our new dynamic. She arrived 15 minutes early, dressed professionally but modestly, and was introduced to the team like any other new hire. I deliberately scheduled meetings off-site to avoid hovering or creating uncomfortable dynamics. Lauren, now our Chief Experience Officer, would be overseeing her training alongside the support team manager. How was it? I asked Lauren over dinner that evening. Interesting, she replied thoughtfully. She's clearly intelligent and picks up concepts quickly. There's an underlying nervousness, though. She flinches when corrected and seems terrified of making mistakes. Very different from the confident founder persona. And the team's reaction? Professional but reserved. They know who she is, of course. Her story is tech industry legend by now. But they're giving her space to define herself through her work rather than her history. Over the following weeks, Madison faced the humbling reality of starting at the bottom of an organization in the industry she'd once briefly conquered. Customer support meant handling basic questions, troubleshooting simple issues, and occasionally facing frustrated users. Her natural charm served her well, but the position required technical knowledge and patience she'd never needed to develop before. Several times she approached me with suggestions for improvements or requests for advancement. Each time, I redirected her to the appropriate channels that any employee would use. The organizational chart isn't just decoration, I explained during one such conversation. Respecting the structure shows respect for everyone's role. Meanwhile, my parents began attending financial literacy classes I'd arranged through a nonprofit organization. The refinancing process moved forward, securing their home with manageable payments. My father's health improved as the immediate crisis receded, though his pride remained wounded by needing his daughter's assistance. The weekly family therapy sessions with Dr. Harriet Wilson proved most challenging. Initial sessions featured defensive posturing and minimal vulnerability. My father particularly struggled with examining his parenting patterns and favoritism. We gave both our girls what they needed, he insisted during our third session. Madison needed more support. Ashley was always so independent. Did you ever consider that Ashley became independent because support wasn't available to her? Dr. Wilson asked gently. Such moments of clarity emerged gradually between stonewalling and deflections. By the sixth session, we began addressing the business betrayal directly. I didn't see it as stealing, Madison admitted. I saw an opportunity that Ashley was moving too slowly on. I thought we could both succeed in the same space. Did you consider collaborating honestly instead of taking her work? Dr. Wilson asked. I suggested it, but Ashley refused, Madison replied. After I discovered you'd already been accessing my files without permission, I reminded her. I was curious. And then when I understood how brilliant the concept was, I got excited and wanted to be part of it. So you took it entirely for yourself and cut me out completely. Madison looked down. I knew you wouldn't need Mom and Dad's money. You never needed anyone. I always needed help, connections, money. Taking your idea was wrong, but it felt like my only chance to do something significant on my own. Except it wasn't on your own. I pointed out. You had our parents' financial support and emotional backing, advantages I never received. These painful conversations slowly built understanding, if not immediate healing. We established new communication patterns that acknowledged past dynamics without being imprisoned by them. My parents began recognizing how their differential treatment had enabled destructive patterns, while Madison confronted her history of taking without earning. At work, Madison gradually earned modest respect through consistent effort. After 4 months, Her customer satisfaction ratings ranked second on the support team. She still occasionally bristled at taking direction from managers younger than herself, but learned to channel her natural competitiveness toward improvement rather than resentment. A pivotal moment came when she identified a pattern in customer confusion that led to a significant interface improvement. Following proper channels, she documented the issue, suggested solutions, and presented her findings to the product team. When the feature launched, I made sure she received appropriate recognition during our company meeting. That's how you build credibility, I told her afterward, through consistent value and respecting the process. She nodded, a different kind of pride visible than her former bravado. It feels better than I expected, earning recognition rather than demanding it. My parents' situation stabilized over time. The refinanced mortgage gave them breathing room, while the financial literacy classes helped them develop a sustainable budget. They sold their luxury car, embraced senior discounts, and began living within their actual means, perhaps for the first time. My father eventually acknowledged that their financial support of Madison had been as much about their own vicarious dreams as genuine belief in her business acumen. We wanted to be the parents of a successful entrepreneur, he admitted during our 5th month of therapy. We didn't understand enough to evaluate whether her business was viable. We just wanted to believe in her because it was easier than facing our own financial limitations. By the 6-month mark, our family dynamics had shifted significantly. The therapy requirement had officially ended, but my parents chose to continue sessions on their own. Madison maintained her position at ClearFinance, eventually moving to the customer experience team where her interpersonal skills proved valuable. 3 years after Madison's company collapsed and our uncomfortable reconciliation began, the landscape looked remarkably different. ClearFinance had grown into a major player in financial technology, with over 200 employees and offices in Boston, San Francisco, and London. Our consumer-first approach had proven prescient as financial literacy became a cultural priority post-recession. Madison had earned 3 promotions through legitimate performance, now serving as a mid-level manager in customer success. Her technical knowledge had grown substantially, and she developed authentic leadership skills that earned her team's respect. She rented her own modest apartment, dated occasionally, and seemed genuinely content with her recalibrated life. My parents had paid off their refinanced mortgage through careful budgeting and selling collectibles they'd previously considered essential. They hosted simple family dinners where conversations included all participants equally, a small but meaningful change from the Madison-centric gatherings of the past. My own journey brought unexpected lessons. The betrayal that once seemed catastrophic had ultimately forced me to build something stronger than my original vision. Without Madison's theft, I might have launched a conventional business that blended into the crowded financial technology landscape. Instead, I'd created something distinctive that helped hundreds of thousands of users achieve financial confidence. Ethan and I married in a simple ceremony with Lauren as my maid of honor and a carefully balanced guest list that included my healing, but still complicated family. Our relationship had weathered exceptional stresses and emerged resilient, a partnership built on genuine support rather than conditions or expectations. During a rare quiet moment in my office overlooking Boston Harbor, I reflected on the unlikely path that led here. The eager computer science student desperate for family approval had become a successful entrepreneur comfortable in her own skin. The pain of betrayal had transformed into wisdom about boundaries, forgiveness, and the difference between enabling and supporting. Most surprisingly, family relationships I'd once thought permanently severed had cautiously regrown on healthier soil. Not perfect, not completely healed, but authentic in a way they'd never been before. Connections based on who we actually were rather than assigned roles or projected hopes. I opened my laptop to finish this post for our company blog's leadership series. The lessons seemed worth sharing. Success built on integrity lasts longer than quick wins through shortcuts. Forgiveness doesn't require forgetting. Setting boundaries isn't punitive but protective. And sometimes losing what you thought you needed makes room for something better. What about you? Have you ever had a betrayal become the catalyst for unexpected growth? How did you handle rebuilding trust if you chose to? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. And if you found value in my story, please share it with someone who might need perspective during their own challenging time. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights from our leadership team. And thank you for being part of the ClearFinance community that turned a personal setback into a shared success.